Hi, everyone. Welcome to Domain Sherpa. We've got a super exciting Domain Sherpa review for everybody today. We've got Braden, Ammar, Josh, and Drew on the show. We skipped the domain game again, and instead we talk about how MediaOptions participated in the listing of Directions.com on Rally Road, making it the first publicly traded domain and the first fractionalized domain on an SEC-approved platform. It's an enormous deal, and a huge shout out to Drew, the rest of the MediaOptions team, and Rally Road on this monumental event. After that, we get into NameJet and a Jet segment sponsored by NameJet, and we talk about domains such as Harlan.com, BigMove.com, and Forward.org. And as usual, a big shout out to our other key sponsor, Dan.com, the #1 place in the world to buy and sell your domains with a platform specifically tailored for domain investors. So all of this is about to go down right now here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. So let's go. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, a.k.a. JT, a.k.a. Jay On, and I am the host and producer of Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is a special Domain Sherpa. So we're going to do a little bit of a Domain Sherpa review where we get into the minds of successful domain investors, using real examples, learn strategies and tactics by reviewing the list of NameJet domains coming up for auction on NameJet. Not wearing that shirt yet, but you'll see I might do a little bit of wardrobe change mid-show, like the Oscars, you know what I'm saying? But today's show is actually really, really important. Super excited. It is a seminal day, a seminal event in domaining today, in that we're talking about Directions.com being listed by MediaOptions on Rally Road, which is the culmination of years of work of my homeboy, Andrew. Over to my left, which, I'll go through and do the AKAs real quick. But yeah, so it went live today, sold out in 15 minutes, 14 minutes. my bad. 14 minutes. And it's super exciting. I mean, it's a validation of the potential model of, domain fractionalization, taking domains public, introducing domain names as an investment to a wider audience. And also under the umbrella of digital assets as being one of the most exciting, interesting, and investable asset classes as it continues to emerge through domains, which, the original digital assets, crypto, NFTs, all that good stuff. So, but today is a domain show. You domain maxis, let's get it in. We're going to have some fun today. It's exciting. We're excited. And with that, let me go ahead. So there's 4 segments to the show. We got the grand opening, what I'm doing right now. I'm going to try and keep it quick because I know we got a lot to talk about. We're doing the special segment. So we're not doing the domain game today. We're going to keep it that special segment, talking about directions, talking about the rally process, some of those details. Then we will get into NameJet and a Jet. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with grand closing. So with that, let me go ahead real quick, introduce the Sherpas. To my right, I got my boy Josh Reason, a.k.a. Bjorn Borg, a.k.a. Harry Kane. That's what it is. I'm not going to do big old bios. I'm just going to do the AKAs and go around the horn. So with that, which is, Saiger, I think, texted me. He's like, man, we should do a drinking game where every time you say with that, you got to drink. People be.
That was me.
Oh, no, that was you. My bad. All right. I knew it was
on this show.
Dude, man, there's a lot going on. I remembered it was an OG domainer that I just had so much respect for. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was. So it's like, And
then you found out it was Braden.
Then I realized it was Braden. It's like, oh man. Anyway, so Braden Pollock down below, aka Tony Stark, aka Benjamin Button. What's happening, man? How are you?
All good here.
All right.
Glad I'm here to correct things.
Yes. No. Hey, see, that's what I knew. I knew we needed you on the show, this particular episode, for a reason. All right. Continuing around the horn, we got my boy Ammar Kubba, aka King Kubba, aka Danny Ocean, aka the Great Gatsby. Don't chase an unworthy dream. You know what I'm saying? He got the memo on the dress code: black T-shirt, shaved head. He knows what it is. Coming to us live from Las Vegas in the new crib. This is a new view we're seeing from you.
That's right. It's finally working. I got my new work from home setup going, my standing desk, even though I'm sitting right now.
I like the vibe, man, because before you'd have that afterthought jam behind you, and it was kind of occasionally would sort of take a piece of your head away and things like that. And now you got that Vegas sun, even though like that cold sun, it's all.
Yeah, it's hot.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
You too, brother.
Yeah. All right. And last but certainly not least, we got Andrew Rosner, aka Morpheus. Wait, that way. AKA the Dirk Diggler domain names, aka the Sniper, Bob Lee Swagger. And now, I mean, we got to come up with like another one, like a Warren Buffett type of thing. Cause I mean, this goes, we're going to go right into the first segment talking about the special thing that's happening today, directions.com. You know, and I've had the pleasure of working with Drew for the last year and change, on this project. This was one of the things that when I came on board as the COO and GC of MediaOptions that I was really, really excited about, because not only, we're talking about the #1 broker and brokerage firm for domains in the world, Craig, the world, we were looking at ways that we were going to be expanding the business and kind of the worldview and, the audience and everything when it came to domains. And, Drew's been, revolutionary and a pioneer in this space for a long time, as are a lot of, also some of the folks on this, talking about Braden Ammar. Josh is more of a young gun, but just as successful.
Disrespect. It's just
No, I just said more of a
Josh created a little liquidity pool.
Yeah, no, look, hey, man. Josh is doing his thing. This wasn't being disrespectful.
DNWE, dog. DNWE's helping
I
people
wasn't being-
liquidate domains since 2020.
Yo, Josh is my homie, man. You know what I'm saying? Why are y'all making it seem like I'm just being disrespectful? I was just saying he's a young gun. He's got the benefit of youth also. You know what I'm saying? I'm jealous. Anyway, come on. Let's keep it on track. So I was just going through and saying how, Drew accomplishing this thing, working with Rally Road, great team, great platform, super, amazing team over there. And for the first time ever, taking a domain public on an actual true SEC approved platform, going through all of the proper channels and steps. I mean, it was not an easy task, and it's literally been years in the making. And today was the day we went live. Directions.com. People could say what they want about that being the particular name, but there's reason we can talk about that too. But I think it's really, really a great thing. And so Drew, why don't you kick off sort of, how this started for you and, how we got to where we are today. And then, let's talk more details about how Rally works, and then kind of, go around the group, just talking about sort of thoughts, questions, comments, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, from my mind, I don't even remember what it was called. When I first came like full time into the domain industry, there was some weird platform. Maybe shortly after, a couple of years later, maybe there was a platform that tried to do this, and I remember thinking to myself, like, because I was basically where Josh is today, and I was looking at these like the Ammars and the Frank Schillings of the world and trading these big names, and I remember sitting at these auctions and watching people buying these great names and thinking, fuck, man, I want those names, but I wasn't there yet, right? And I remember thinking like, everybody in this room is thinking the exact same way that I am. They'd all love to own a piece of the name that Frank just bought, right? And, we would see like, I mean, Braden, I don't know if you and I own any names together, but I own a few names with Ammar together. I couldn't even tell you which names we own, but I think we own a bunch of names together. And there's a bunch of people that I own names together. So this is a natural tendency, right? And
we all do. All of us that have been in the
everybody.
space for a long time own names. I think we might have names together. I know definitely that Ammar and I have names together.
Yeah.
I have names with a bunch of people. So you're right, 100%.
And so it was like, all right, there has to be a way to take these domains, make that possible, but like doing it, it gets very messy. I mean, I own domains with so many people, as do the both of you. It's messy. I couldn't even tell you, like somewhere I have a spreadsheet for some of those relationships. Most of them I don't. And so it's just messy. And like, anyways, it was clear that this was a natural progression for the asset class. It's not that innovative. It's happened across other asset classes. To me, it was just a natural evolution. And so the next question was, how do you make it work? And so, I farted around with a lot of just, let's say half-assed, halfway there type of ideas. And, those were a lot easier to execute, of course, but you're always running some kind of risk, or you got to play some kind of, game. And there's been other people that have tried it, doing some of those measures. And, at the end of the day, what it came down to is like, all right, what are we trying to achieve? We want this to be an investable asset class for institutional investors, because that's where the real capital is going to be. And that's how we actually get domains to achieve the valuations, or let's say where we get domain prices to achieve the valuations that they deserve. And so to do that required, the only path was to go, fully SEC compliant. And, I looked at the marketplace. I spoke with several different platforms. Immediately, I hit it off with the Rally Road guys. They got it right away. And, and it's been basically 4 years in the making of, start, stop. We had, the whole thing, whatever. There's been various reasons why the whole thing started and stopped, right? And the SEC's been hot and cold on it. I think probably the GameStop mess probably put it on ice, because we were supposed to go live with this about 9 months ago, and the whole thing kind of got put on ice. So anyways, we finally did it. It was a lot of work. JT put in a ton of work, helping to get the SEC docs right. Rally Road is just an amazing partner. These guys are great. They have an amazing team. The asset team's great. The executive team is great. They're just cool guys. I've hung out with them in New York a bunch of times. They have an amazing office. I think they're moving to a new office. And everything finally came together. But I think everybody's interests were aligned. Everybody was on the same page, and it just, but it was a process. It was a slug.
Yeah.
It was a slug.
So it sold out 14 minutes. Is that what the official?
14 minutes. 14 minutes.
I mean, I think it's interesting. You see what's going on with Rally Road. They've had a lot of success with a bunch of different collectibles, including NFTs. They did a Bored Ape. They've done, I think, CryptoPunk and other stuff. And, the idea, we had this teed up even before that, but it's like, I think it finally.
Yeah, this has been worked on for literally about 4 years, like for the first conversation, at least, probably 2 years, like serious, pen on paper. We went, the first thing we took public was a Bored Ape, but, but this was always really this was the prize.
Yeah. And I think so for the folks who don't know, it's Rally Road, like RALLYRD.com is their domain name. And they have, it's interesting shit, everything from like a copy of the Declaration of Independence, right, all the way to, Rolexes and classic novels and all these kinds of things. So,
cars, they start, well, they call Rally Road because they start with classic cars. I think.
Oh, yeah. No, they did.
Exactly.
They did. In fact, yep. Because in the meetings that we've had with their team, even some of the technology, it's all based around the original, like the valuation, how they display data. It's all like they started with cars, classic cars, and then they've segued into all of these things. And I can tell you the team is very
now
excited.
they're doing whiskey, they're doing wine, they're doing watches, they're doing Birkin bags, they're doing
Yeah.
I've been an investor. Full disclosure, MediaOptions has a interest in directions.com as well as an interest in Rally Road, full disclosure. But that being said, so I started investing on Rally Road a while ago, and I've got shares of like Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves when he beat Joe Frazier. I've got shares of like the joystick from the Apollo 13 landing. I think that's the only one I've actually lost money on, or not lost money, but the valuation has gone down, which is crazy to me. I feel like that one should be skyrocketing, but
pun intended.
Yeah, I've got shares of Declaration of Independence. I've got shares of a bunch of different cool cars.
But what I can tell you is in having the conversations with them, they're very excited about the digital assets. This is really and they've been super excited from the beginning. I think this has been a little different than what they've been, used to with some of the more physical, the physical goods. But there's a lot of really great energy over there too, around domains and all that. So let's talk to you guys. What are your initial thoughts? Go ahead, Drew. You were going to say something.
No, I want to hear the same, but I also had a specific question in addition to just like general thoughts is like, I'm curious what you guys thought about, because I am a user of the platform on other assets. And I think that the way they display these assets is really very cool. I think that the way that the whole storyline, the display, the graphics, it's great. I'm not as impressed with the way we've done domains, and domains create a unique problem in that area, right? It's not so easy to do it. Do you want to create a logo for the domain? Maybe not. Maybe that's actually, creating a legal risk, or maybe it's creating, doing something, that's potentially negative. And so there's been, and this has obviously been a long discussion over a long period of time about how to. I'm not 100% satisfied, just being honest. And so I'd love to hear any ideas or feedback you guys had about the way it's being displayed, or just the general UX of the experience. Who bought shares? Who bought shares?
So I bought 500 shares, which is the maximum.
Yeah.
Part of it through early access, and then the rest this morning when it launched. Just in the nick of time, 14 minutes. As far as the way it's displayed, I think we all look at it from a unique perspective, which is going to be different from other investors, like kind of general investors that don't know anything about domain names. So for me, there was the historical screenshots of the websites that used to be there. Like, to me, that's not at all relevant. Like, I don't care what it used to be, right? I only care about what I think it could be.
Could be, yeah.
And I have an experienced eye, right? We all do.
Yeah.
So I can just look at directions.com, look at the price, which is 140, which is a fair wholesale price. It's not a steal, but it's not retail. A retail buyer is going to pay more than that. So I think the price is fair. I certainly want to support the project and support you guys. But I really didn't need anything else. I know I did look at the other stuff, but I agree that it is kind of difficult in how you would display it, because it's not a Lamborghini, right? It's not a Birkin bag. It's so all you have are data points. And what are the data points? The data points that we look at when we look at domain names is potentially comps, right? But more so, how many extensions is it registered in, which is going to be nothing to everybody else. How many companies use it? I mean, maybe that's an interesting point for other people, but that could get us into some hot water, right? Like, oh, look at these big companies; they might be potential buyers. That's probably not something.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm against logos because the logo could be something that is not at all relevant to the potential buyer, right? So the logo could send it in the wrong direction.
Pun also intended on directions, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead. That's what I'm here for. I'm just here to keep.
So that's a good question, and I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the way it's been displayed is probably the best way, since you guys have been working on it for so long. But you tweak it on the next one and do something a little different and see if it works any better. But look, it's sold out in 14 minutes. So
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be able to look at it now, as a success, obviously, and clear success. So now you can kind of nitpick a little bit, and we can have these open conversations around, okay, what can we do better for the next one, and and get like sort of a feeling without it sort of poisoning the well, right? Because it's because we're in the weeds like we are, because this is what we do. We're domain investors. We understand. We've been doing this long enough that, like, to Braden's point, you're seeing it through a different lens than a lot of other folks. It'll be interesting too to get feedback from people who are on the Rally platform and who invested in this, and kind of get some of their thoughts on what they think and why and how it caught their eye. I don't know how much we're allowed to disclose about internal information, but I know this was really like from a sort of the way they gauge interest on the platform. This particular asset was definitely garnered a lot of interest prior to going live.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, clicks and things like that. You know what I mean? So. Which I think is pretty interesting,
it's actually an interesting segue into sort of going backwards again. Like, when I first started speaking to them, what I wanted to understand is, like, what is the demographic of your user base? And I'm sure that it's changed, because this was now 3-4 years ago. But like at that time, it blew my mind, because it was like, oh my God, I knew this was going to be a success. I knew it, because it was like, their demographic was like, and I'm going to get it wrong, so this is not accurate at this point, but it directionally correct. And it was something like
pun intended.
Yeah. See how often directions is used. So
exactly.
It's like 18, no, sorry. I think it was like 20 to 45 years old. This was like representing 80% of the users. It was like 20 to 45 years old, college degree, over $100,000 a year in income. It was like you looked at it. And I think the thing that stood out to me most was like interested in cryptocurrency, which indicates an interest in digital assets. Yeah. There were some funny ones. I don't remember what it was. It was like doesn't trust banks or something like that. Or doesn't trust the stock market. Or I don't remember what it was. Don't quote me on any of that. But it was something in that direction. And I just remember thinking like, yes, this is the future investor in the domain name asset class, right? It's like that's it. That's the profile that we need.
Does Rally Road have any other IP? Because everything else, I as I recall, is just physical assets. Right?
Yeah, aside from the NFTs.
So they've now done I think three Bored Apes or 4 Bored Apes. They're about to take, I think, the 4th Bored Ape public, Trippy.
Trippy.
Yeah.
They've done a punk, right?
Yeah, and they did 1 punk or 2 punks. I think they did 2 punks.
All right, so Ammar, you bought some shares. What do you think? I mean, what's your general take and vibe? I mean, are you excited? You think it's cool? What would you? Any feedback, good, bad? What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. Drew knows I've been also really interested in this fractional space, and Braden and I have had conversations about it. I really do believe this is the way to go. This is, and not just for domain names, obviously, but that's where we play. But I just kind of view the whole world is going to get fractionalized. Totally. Every asset of value, of real value, and the more we can bring down the cost to fractionalize these assets, the cost of actually doing it, obviously the SEC thing is big, right? And so I think that's going to get easier, hopefully, and more streamlined. And then I think hopefully people will be able to kind of like mint their own fractional asset, right? Like I don't think at some point you're going to need a Rally Road to do it, right? Sure. You do need a platform, but I think, you can kind of, I think it'll be much easier, right? To do down the line. There'll be a kind of a somewhat of a DIY solution. I hope.
I think we're seeing that kind of stuff already. But the SEC, I mean, that's where
it's tricky, man. They don't want to let go of control. Right. That's the problem.
But we're already seeing it. We're seeing it definitely in NFTs where, you have, they're making it easier to mint your own NFT. And, then it's the fractionalized piece of it, which is also coming together from a technical standpoint. The key is going to be the platforms being able to set it up in a way that's compliant. And of course, being that we are in we have a global economy, and it's easier for folks that are not in the U.S. to participate in these kinds of things. So I think you'll see innovation, and that's where you hope that, like, the folks, this is asking a lot of the government in general, but you hope that they understand, like, hey, if we're too tight on this, then at the end of the day, we're going to see innovation happening everywhere else except here, and our citizens we're going to be behind because we're being too restrictive for the wrong reasons. Like we all, protecting investors is important, right? And there are ways to do that without the amount of hoops that we had to jump through for all of this. Like was insane, and I just don't see them necessarily letting up anytime soon. But I do think the more that they get comfortable, that's one of the great things about Rally Road, and an enormous shout out to their team who've interfaced directly now with the SEC for a while and have established a really good relationship. There's like a level of trust there and things like that matter when it comes to, them being sort of pioneers in this, idea of these, this fractionalized ownership of these assets and collectibles and then being, publicly traded and released in that way. So,
And to answer Drew's question from before, I'm looking at the kind of the listing page, if you want to call it that, and I don't think it's bad. I think, and I don't really view what they put there as a logo so much as hey, how do you kind of visually present a domain name, right? So they have a laptop, they have some clouds, and So it kind of makes sense, right? And I think and I like the chart on the valuation or comparable asset value, but you're not going to be able to have that for every name, right? So I think there needs to be one place I could see some improvement is a better way of presenting the value proposition for the name, so that somebody who's not in our industry can understand it. Why does this have a name? I mean, it was a really nice chart where they're showing $10,000 on Afternic in 05 to 140 today, or 125 on GoDaddy a few months ago. So that part is good, but I think it could be better.
Sure.
And that's what I would want to see. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty easy, pretty intuitive. I bought some on pre-release, and and then Braden copied me after he read my tweet, probably, and then I bought some more this morning.
Yeah.
And I bought for two reasons. Number one, first and foremost, I wanted to support you guys, and number two, at 140K, it's not a steal, like Braden said, but it's worth that all day long. So I know I'm not going to lose money on it, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because now the name's going to get more attention, and it'll be interesting to see kind of the dynamics of when inquiries come in and how the management of the asset works. And that's kind of another reason I wanted to be a buyer, because I wanted to see how it works from the guy who's on the other side.
Yeah.
And
No, that makes a lot of sense. And then Josh, what about you?
I
Man?
I was just going to say on Amar's point. I mean, it's not wholesale, but it's not a wholesale name anymore. Like to Amar's point, it's not. It's got too much publicity around it. The kind of marketing that is indirectly done just gives it more value. It's more valuable now.
And I think and I think with future names to be listed on the platform, especially early on in this process, they get the benefit of being unique because, they're the first ones, so they're going to get additional eyeballs. I think once you get it to where this is a regularly occurring thing and you're 20 names in or something, maybe some of that novelty wears off. But I think for the first few, for sure, you're going to have, some extra value associated just with the fact that they're the first ones, So, but what do you think about the? Have you been able to see the platform and the landing pages or the listing pages for this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I use the app on my phone, and I think it looks pretty good. The listing page looked good on the app. I didn't buy any. I just took a peek. I saw the punk. There was a punk on there as well. But yeah,
and then he was distracted. He couldn't get back to
Yeah, exactly. He's like, so I bought a bunch of shares in the punk, and by the time I wanted to buy shares in directions, it had sold out.
But I thought it was actually pretty clear. I mean, if I hadn't, known about domains and investing in them, I think I would have looked at that and thought, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the team, a lot of credit. I really was always impressed with Rally from the get-go, from when we first started utilizing
super impressive team.
Very like the way that they present their inventory and the assets is super clean. It's very slick without being too busy. It's very I think just in the way that they operate, they're just they've got a good team with a lot of good people, and which is why they're as successful as they are, and why they were the choice for this.
I think the single best slide on here for the uninitiated people that don't understand domain names is the slide showing the appreciated value over time. That it's gone up 1,200%. Like every time it's sold.
And to be fair, we are we're actively working on ways to improve that specific graphic.
Yep, because
to include more data points, more generic data points. So this is actually a good question for you guys. Like, what do you think is the best way to create a variety of domain name indexes, right? So, you could say, all right, I don't know, 86 911 Porsche. We know what the market is because there's thousands of them that trade. right? And so, okay, it can be up a little bit because of this spec or this spec, brings it down a little bit. Condition brings it up or down a little bit. Yeah, but it's easy to create an index for that. But domain names, I fundamentally believe each domain name is truly a snowflake. It is completely unique. I personally don't believe in comps. I think comps create, a good comp can create, a framework for establishing, a value range. But I don't think that the value, the sale of one domain does not equate to the value of another domain, because the circumstances are different. Utility for a particular buyer is different. The owner might be different. I really fundamentally believe that the value of a domain is driven by, its total addressable market, which can be measured through exact match search and, what advertisers are willing to pay for a given keyword or acronym, with a variety of other things that will influence that. But that being the beef of it. So, it's hard. You say, all right, well, let's take a bunch of comps and let's create an index from that. Well, but if we're pulling comps, it's only from publicly available data, right? And that's like NameBio, Estabot, GoDaddy, whatever. These are going to be 80% or more wholesale transactions, which are not going to be indicative of the value. And
not the high end of the market.
And not the high end of the market. And so, it's almost a completely different domain category, right? It's like, so
you have to have an expert that does it and says, this is what a good retail sale is, and we're not going to use wholesale deals. I mean, if it's sold on Snap Names or it's sold on NameJet and venues like that, it's not a retail sale. So you can immediately eliminate those.
Or add a premium to them, you know what I mean? And say, those are.
I think you could also, though, the flip side of that is you could also look at just percentage increases rather than the actual absolute number. You look at the relative number. And I think that could be more interesting and more indicative of value increasing, right? But other than that, I agree with Drew on the actual comps. I just think domains are, I want to say, almost impossible to actually objectively ascertain a real value, in my opinion. I mean, Drew talks about the advertising and CPC and the Rosner method or whatever.
The Rosner equation.
Yeah.
Get it right.
The Rosner equation. But yeah.
I prefer the Kubba method. But I just think it's really, really hard to value these things. And I think that it's probably closest to art, right? It's really, really subjective. And while you can have some baseline kind of metrics to look at and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's really, really subjective. And so I just don't see how you do that other than you measure it in supply and demand, and you maybe measure in, like I said, relative rather than absolute numbers.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, this was something we talked about when we had Pedro Naranjo on here, and we talked about
Noronha.
Sorry, man, Pedro, my bad, dude. But we talked about a fund around domains and creating an index, right? That can, try to value domains to make them easier to invest in, especially for institutional investors, and, but we're still not, we're not there. So, and using any of the tools, Estabot, NameBio, at least you're going to get comps. Estabot, you'll sort of get comps, and then you'll get that, the appraisal that they'll spit out. But it's like, as we all know, it's so hit or miss, largely, undervalues domains, more often than it overvalues them. But, so I think it's a challenge. But it is something we're actively working on to figure out, to be able to do this consistently on an ongoing basis. There needs to be a way that's, that you can do this. And, I like the idea of expert appraisals to some degree, but you have to have someone that is at a level of trust without a vested interest that, is almost like a truly disinterested third party that the general public would put their trust into, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I think that can be challenging as well in a very niche business like domains are, So But
As long as you ask the right experts, don't ask Braden.
So, hey, you can always get get Rick Schwartz to value the name, and then every name will look like a steal, because he'll be like, it's worth $10 bajillion. And if anybody
Mike Mann is the same way. He prices everything.
Yeah, that honestly, that is ridiculous.
Well, yeah. Oh, I think the issue you have with this,
it's ridiculous until the name sells, right?
The thing is,
any track record speaks for itself.
Any name can sell for any price, but if you don't put accurate values on the majority of names, defeats the purpose.
You're a collector.
Yeah, you are a collector. But here's the thing about that, right? And that's where it's hard to judge it based on just how certain individuals price their names, because their circumstances are different, right? Rick doesn't need to sell a name today. So he can literally hold out for the biggest number because he can be as stubborn as he wants, because it doesn't matter. And whereas some other folks, would sell a name cheaper because they need the cash. And, so those kinds of things, and they're really just based on, that's just more of like just seller philosophy versus actual domain name appraisal. And I think that, the key is to, if you're really trying to if you're trying to use the expert appraisal method, you've got to establish the level of expertise on the part of whoever is the one that's doing that particular exercise. Drew is one of the foremost experts in domain appraisals, right? But he can't appraise a name that he's listing through Rally Road, right? So there's a conflict of interest there. So then it's like, who else, you've got Jeff Gabriel and other folks that, I would think of in the industry that could do that kind of thing. Can they be put out there in the, in this environment, right, to the Rally Road customers as, a voice of expertise that people would put stock in, to feel like, okay, I can trust this and rely on this to make an investment decision. You know what I mean? So, we can put it out there, but I don't know if
here's a thought. Here's a thought that's a little, kind of a little bit of a scary thought, but I think the way that you get this to work, at the end of the day, it's going to be based on what the market forces are going to want, right? So I think in the beginning, somebody may have to take a risk with some of their own assets and put them out there, right? Because what's going to happen is once I guess there's enough recognition, maybe, or enough attention on the asset class, but you put out, let's say, 10 names, right? And each individually priced, and you fractionalize them, and you let the market speak, right?
Yes.
Now, right? And in the beginning, those are going to go for way less than what they should. But one would think over time, they will achieve a proper valuation.
Market price.
And right. And so maybe the way to do it, and just talking out loud, it's kind of a scary thought, but we have to put out some of our better names, and maybe we retain 50%, right? We just sell 50% of them, right? That way you're not completely selling out at the low number. But
this is ultimately what I'm doing, right? Is we're literally
right, but you're doing it in a way where it's, I think, it can be done more efficiently. And like I said, this is what I want to do with fractional. I really want to be able to make it easy to just list it, right? And let the market speak, because it keeps coming back to this, where what we're all arguing about, in my opinion at least, is that these assets are very, very, very hard to evaluate, right?
Yes.
Like Josh has a different metric than you do,
than all of us.
Braden does. Well, it's just different. I think Josh. You know what? I think I will tell you this. I actually think Josh's methodology is probably the most rational, right? It's not going to yield the highest return, but it is the most rational.
It's going to have the highest turnover.
And it's gonna.
That's something that's interesting. Really quick, it's like if you could get it sophisticated enough with, where you had people who could establish, sort of their, brand as, from an appraisal standpoint, you could almost have different, whether they're entities in themselves or individuals, kind of like they have their own ratings. You know what I mean? So you almost have like
it's like Morningstar and
right. But right. So you could do tip ranks for domainers.
Yeah.
But seriously, at the end of the day, none of these appraisals matter, in my opinion, because it's the market that speaks, right?
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
like Drew said,
But you have to
Do you know,
help
do you
the
know, do you know-
market.
do you know what? There's an interesting point. There's an interesting point here because the market would actually evaluate exact match domains like directions.com at a lot higher price than what we know to be the best names. And that's actually interesting. And that's why there's a lot of names out there. And you may or may not disagree with this, but the names that are exact match and kind of like they people think of a category, they're not thinking of a brand. Those names, when they sell, will sell for astronomical prices because the buyer thinks that it should cost that price, but they don't sell very often. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to the brands like Galaxy or whatever, those are going to sell a lot more often, but it's much harder to get, the 5 million price tag or whatever it may be. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think, my take on that is, that, yeah, people who are maybe not as sophisticated as selling domains on a regular basis may use there may be different things that attribute value to them in their minds, right? So they might think, oh, this generic name is so popular, I can imagine this being, as big as MapQuest, right? Let's talk about directions. This is Google Maps. Like, that site is one of the biggest in the world. Of course, this name should be worth so much money. But then that when you're trying to sell that name versus something that might be easier to be a brandable generic, if you will, like a Galaxy, to a company that's out there that we know exists before Galaxy was Galaxy.com, right? That's a target with a big, a big opportunity to sell that name for a lot of money. So there are factors that when, you really get into the weeds of selling a domain name that are definitely nuanced and very particular to the space. So yeah, I think that's interesting. The market may judge, but maybe that's how they should be judged. You know what I mean? It's
Maybe
and I think that's the thing when you're talking about the ability to bring in capital in an easier way to drive multiple people to be able to afford bigger domains, maybe that's the true value, right? I mean, it's like, maybe it shouldn't be just about, okay, there's a particular target that exists right now, or, in the short term that would pay real big money for a domain based on their needs versus the actual value of the term itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's at the end of the day, the way these domains should be valued. And maybe that's why, if this can become more prevalent, then this is, it right sizes it properly.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say a lot, but like, we have plans to utilize this platform and this new, let's say liquidity channel for domain names, in some pretty interesting ways, where, let's just say, for example, let's say you have a company that wants to buy a domain, it's $1 million, they just can't afford it or they're not willing to, but they have some cash, they've got a successful business, and cash flows, they could, in essence, if you think about like what makes Web3 and this whole NFT thing really exciting, it's the ability to reward your community, your customers, your whatever you want to call them, and engage with them and allow them to sort of come along for the ride. Well, imagine that you could take your domain name public, lease it back. So you've got basically, let's say you're, I don't know, whatever, right? Let's just say it's, mint.com. So mint.com says, all right, look, we've got a short-term capital need. We're going to take our domain public. They take mint.com public at $1 million valuation. They probably get 5 million, but let's say $1 million valuation. And, they say, look, we're going to pay back, I don't know, well, let's say it's, 8% to, the shareholders. So it's like, what is that? Like 10 grand a month. So let's say it's 10 grand a month. That's actually more, but
that is more.
Yeah.
Like,
so let's say it's like
No,
5 grand.
it-
Let's say 5.
Whatever, we get the point though.
Five grand a month. So it's 5 grand a month. They're going to lease this domain, right? The shareholders buy up $1 million domain. Mint has an exclusive purchase option at, let's say, $2 million. So now basically you've created like a bond, right? It's like, so they own the domain name. It's basically collateral, right? And they're getting a lease payment, which creates passive income. And the one that's leasing it has an exclusive purchase option. Maybe it's got a time frame on it. It's, at $2 million. So they've got, something that could double in value, that creates passive income in the meantime, And, you can keep rolling that. Nobody's going to hate holding that, right? I'll hold that shit till I die. Like, I hope you never redeem it. Right?
Well, you're basically talking about a domain capital DAO, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
It's where anybody
Except
can submit
Web
their name
2,
as collateral. Yeah.
Yeah, but Web 2 and fully SEC compliant.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a huge, but without disclosing too much, because we're not saying we're doing that. We're saying these are all potential options on the table and really interesting things that
it's just ways to think about what does this mean? What are the implications of this, right? Going forward.
I'm just trying to keep Drew from like getting sanctioned. But no, I'm just playing. But yeah, I mean, look, the opportunities around this really get super interesting, and this is just the beginning. Super early, and today was a great event. We only have about 20 some minutes left, and we still have to run through the NameJet list, and I think we covered a lot of ground on this. I don't know if anybody has any final sort of thoughts on this before we
just
move on to the next segment.
Guys. Congrats.
Oh yeah, great job. Great job in getting that done. I think it's going to be monumental. I think you're doing really well. Yep.
I know you've been working on this for years, so it's great that finally this project has seen the light of day.
Thanks to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And, so I'm just happy I was able
to. Just sorry, really super fast, and then let's kick this off because I also have a hard stop soon. Saiger emailed me, saying congratulations and that he had participated, and he said, I still remember this, conversation we had when you first told me that you were going to do this, and we were walking on the beach in Portugal, in Lisbon, and you told me about this and how excited I was, and I said to him, I replied to him, I said, that conversation actually is one of the things that gave me such high conviction and made me feel super accountable to actually get it done. And there was a bunch of times where I was like, this is just, never going to happen. And so, that accountability was played a big role in just getting this thing to the end. So thank you, Saiger.
Yeah, and I just think, and to everybody, right? I mean, you hear Ammar and Braden both made the point, they're also participating to be supportive, not just of you, Drew, and MediaOptions and us, but, the space in general too. This is
the whole industry. This is good for everybody.
Well, exactly, because these are the kind of moments that really make a difference. And, it should, it might not, but it's obviously.
So you're saying Josh is an asshole for not supporting?
All I'm saying is that I've got nothing but love for Josh.
I'm saying that with my silence.
And I'm saying that Josh would have bought in, but he already bought and sold those CryptoPunk shares.
14 minutes, man. 14 minutes. I don't have time. I mean, I'm just not quick enough for that. I didn't expect that. It's a good thing that I wasn't able to get any.
Yeah, see? I love the positive spin. All right, so with that, and we want to, so thank you guys. Appreciate all that good stuff.
Nice save, buddy.
We've got a list to review from some NameJet names, so we're going to do that before we shut it down. But before we do that, we're going to jump to our sponsors really quick. Huge shout out to Dan.com. As always, literally the best platform for buying and selling domains. If you don't have your domains listed there, your strategy needs some work, some help. So
that was the best promotion ever.
Shout out to Resident Omen and the team. But yeah, so we're gonna jump real quick to commercial, and then we're gonna come back and talk more here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Let's go.
MediaOptions is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, MediaOptions offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. MediaOptions believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Domain Sherpa. We are about to get into the next segment of the show, which is NameJet Gonna Jet, sponsored by our good friends at NameJet. You see that wardrobe change. Let's get it. And we've got a really great list of names today. So just to kind of the the general process here for those who don't know. We review domains that are headed to auction shortly at NameJet. You like any of these domains, make sure you click them out so you don't miss out. We've got the spreadsheet on the DomainSherpa site, so you can pull that and you can get some additional detail on the names themselves and how many back orders, what the appraisal is, all that good stuff. And then there actually are at least 2 names on this list today that this show we're recording on a Thursday, dropping it on a Tuesday. So actually the day this airs, 2 of these names, the expiry pre-release period ends tonight. So you've got to get your back orders in ASAP. All of these are expiring domains, which means no reserve. But it also means that they're private. So if you do not have a back order in before the end of the back order deadline date, you will not be able to participate in the auction itself. So hustle, get your back orders in, and yeah, because there's a lot of great names on this list. So let's go ahead.
These names are amazing. What the hell?
Dude, I know, look, I don't know why, and I've said this on the shows in the past, I don't know why I feel like I take personal credit, like when I pick a good list. Because it literally is it's just based on whatever the inventory is, you know what I mean?
But
it's
sure these are all expiry?
I mean,
I literally haven't put a back order in for like a year, and I'm back ordering all of these.
Well, what I can say is if they're not expiry, I know they are at least no reserve. So all the names that I selected are no reserve. If any that snuck in.
Wait, I don't even see commercial.com.
I mean, it's there. It was there.
It is there, but it's funny when you search it, it's hard to find. But
that's good. That's good. That means we'll get it for a discount.
Let's go. So
I'm bidding you up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I went through just in the interest of disclosure, the way that we do this on the show, I actually go through personally more often than not, and I just, I run through the list of names that are available, usually the day before, because, we don't want to pick names that are going to be gone because sometimes the names won't go all the way through to auction. And I know this also because I used to run the platform, but, the folks there is, have the back order or the renewal grace period. So if they do get renewed by the actual registrant, then they won't go all the way through to auction, but that ends a few days prior to the end of the pre-release date. So ideally by the time they get there, they will in fact be available if they go all the way through. So hopefully that's the case. Let me see about, oh no, commercial looks like it got renewed. So you know what? We're not going to talk about that one. That's actually no longer on the list. So I'm going to do
another good name yesterday got canceled as well. I think it was on GoDaddy. Lightbulb.
What a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it is frustrating. And even when I was on the other side of it, it was like, you'd see a name like that and I'd be like, oh, please go through. Like, let's, and so we'd be as bummed as anybody. So, all right, well, that one's not on there. So who wants to start? Go ahead. Yeah.
I see my name there first, so I'll start. And that way I'll be able to get something in before these guys just take over the show. But forward.org is my favorite. Forward.org is my favorite name.
That's fantastic.
Definitely throw a $20,000 proxy on that one and make you guys pay up.
All right. Yeah. I do. I love that.
Hey, wait, hold on. Okay. I mean, I like forward.org. I'm a big .org fan. Why on earth would you put a 20 proxy on forward.org? What am I missing?
They're selling for a lot these days. I think what was the name I bid up to like 15 or 16 on? Braden was in that name. That was one of the only other auctions I've bid on for a while. It was a .org, and they're just going for that much. Like this name.
I mean, I have a massive, really good .org portfolio. I'm not seeing those. Well, actually, that's not true. I just sold email.org for a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm not here to say that they're selling crazy prices at retail, but this name is going to go for a lot in this auction. I don't think I don't think 20 grand will win it. I honestly don't think it will. I think it would be like I think it could go to like 25, 30. It's just, what was that name, Braden, that we were bidding on?
Therapy.
There's been 2 .org names that I've been bidding on recently, and I put like 15 grand in, and I'm like, I'm definitely winning this name, and it ended up going to like 20, 25.
Yeah, I remember that I didn't get it, but I remember there was something like that. Yeah, what was it?
Anyway,
let's all remain silent.
For me, forward is on the same level. I mean, there aren't many better SLDs than that. in my opinion. I think it's an unbelievable SRD. So yeah, I love that one. I love $1,000,000.com. First thing that comes to mind is like an NFT of some sort. To be quite honest with you, I think that name would you'd be able to fetch a pretty.
It was treatment.org, by the way.
Oh yeah, treatment.org. Yeah.
No, that was
sold-
another one.
Forward
Well.
is
That was
better
like a
than
brand
Treatment.
one.
Oh, I think, yeah, well, exactly. I think Forward is better than Treatment, and Treatment sold for $20,500. So, I think that's just to put it in some sort of a ballpark. And that wasn't like, it wasn't like 8 months ago either. That was literally 2 weeks ago. So, I think we're going to see. I would agree that Forward is going to sell for more than 20, but we'll see. Bless you.
Yeah. I like brandlabs.com. I think that's a great name.
That one I thought of like an NFT, with everything being labs, Yuga Labs, Larva Labs, Dapper Labs, Brand Labs to me was just kind of
It's like out of the keywords that you can
What's
put in
up,
front of
bro?
labs, brand labs is, like maybe like a top 10.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I agree.
Like really, really great name. Yeah, and I like all the other ones as well. Like for me, those three are the standout. But fastquote.com is an insanely good name. And that one, like, I feel like may go under the radar for how good it is.
I'm going to say this just because I want to get priced out of it, because my New Year's resolution is buy less domain names.
Yeah.
But I sold fastsale.com for like 250 grand. Like fast quote, I sold fastinsurancequotes.com, plural, fastinsurancequotes.com. I sold that for like 35.
Stop, dude, stop. I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying? Like fastquote.com is it's a multi six-figure domain name, maybe $500,000 value domain name.
Josh, I found the name. I had a $22,000 bid on it and lost it.
What was my bid? Like 16, 17, something like that?
I don't know. It sold for $26,000 and the name was power.org.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, that was a great
solid.
one. Yeah, that was a great one.
But I'll tell you,
Power is better than Forward, I think.
Yeah, it's not close.
Power is an insane name.
It's not even close.
But Forward is great. But
I don't know what you do with Forward.
I mean, like, you're moving forward. I kind of think
forward
that's really what it's an
maybe Forward
name.
Foundation. Yeah, Forward Foundation.
It's an aspirational name.
There's like a next gen health chain called
Accelerator.
Yeah, I mean,
if you go to Crunchbase and type Forward, I mean, just brands called Forward with like millions of dollars in funding, there's like 20.
Yeah, it's definitely a good name.
I love it.
It's a great name.
All right, cool. Well, Drew, what else? Since you jumped in about Fast Quote, what else do you like? Don't like?
Isn't Crystal Springs? Isn't that like a water company already?
Crystal
Isn't
Geyser.
that like
Crystal Geyser?
Crystal Geyser. And then there's a million something springs.
Yeah.
All right, Crystal Springs is great. I mean, that's a great brand. I mean, it's like retirement home. Sub-development community.
A resort.
Oh, yeah, no, Crystal Springs, and they use Crystal Dash Springs, by the way, and it's a water delivery since 1921.
Yeah, that's what it's like the Poland Springs competitor. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'd be careful.
Is it East Coast maybe?
So all right, well that's a good one. Let's talk about that. So Crystal Springs, you've got a company that uses Crystal Dash Springs. They've been around literally for 100 fucking years, right?
Yeah.
And somehow this name is now up. Maybe this is their account and they just somebody's asleep at the switch. Maybe they renewed it for,
No, if they had it, they wouldn't be on the hyphen, dude.
Oh, that's true. So very good point. Maybe they love the hyphen, you know what I'm saying?
So anyways, it is what it is. I wouldn't touch it. I think it's an amazing domain name. I think you're asking for trouble though.
How many people you think are front running that shit right now? Hitting up Crystal Dash Springs.
That's the thing is you could buy this innocently, like, I'm going to turn this into a retirement community. You're going to get a UDRP anyways, because there's literally 20 dudes contacting Crystal Springs trying to fucking sell this name before it hits auction.
Guys, in the NFT space, we call this FUD. Drew's fudding the name so that he can buy it.
We're fudding Crystal Springs right now. No, he really we've got this. This fits right into our business plan about creating a retirement community. So this is good.
Yeah.
This works. All right, that's what's up. No, I think that's a good point because we talk about trademarks and it's kind of finding the right balance of like, hey, we find targets and then we do our outbounding on domains, and you've got this one which is such a clear sort of target, right? But it's almost so on the nose and so direct that Crystal Springs could be a million other things. There's probably 10 towns named Crystal Springs, and I think that's where Jason Voorhees would hack up fucking campers and shit like on the summertime. It's actually Crystal Lake, but same thing. It's like so there's other uses. It's not like they haven't cornered the market on it, but you've got to be super careful when you're approaching.
You're probably asking for a fight though.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't think you reach out with without. And especially if you're trying to squeeze a lot of money out of it. It's one thing if it's like, hey, really the thing would be to tell them that, and I'm sure like Elliot Silver is probably already sending an email to them. Hey, this name should be one you might want to go grab yourself from NameJet. You know what I mean? Like on that altruistic kind of tip that, shout out to Elliot, by the way.
I hate those nice assholes.
Yeah.
Damn nice people. They're damn nice people. They're messing it up for everybody.
Yeah. Your kindness.
I've told this story before, but like my first time I ever had a conversation with Shane was like, this is like 15 years ago. And I remember I emailed dude and I was like, listen, stop publishing that damn list.
Yeah.
You're tipping off everybody to the good names that are dropping. Stop. And he wrote me back. He's like, that's the point, dude. And I was like, well, you're messing up my program.
And now here you are doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're
evolution, baby. Evolution.
All right. Well,
I think you owe Shane an apology.
I've apologized several times.
So, all right. Any others then before we?
I also like Big Move. I think Big Move is a cool name. I think like moving companies, like that would be a super dope brand for a moving company, and moving companies make a lot of money. That's a big lead gen category. So Big Move is a dope name. I like that name a lot.
Yeah.
But I like all the names. I mean, they're all good.
I think Harlan is a good name.
Yeah.
The first name
and
a last name.
There's other spellings, but yes.
First or last name, could be, it's just an empty vessel. Same with Aaron, which is a funny name to spell Aaron, way to spell Aaron, but it's used. Or Iran.
You done messed up the Iran.
Yeah, Iran.
Iran.
But it's just another one of those name, first name, empty vessel kind of names.
Mm-hmm.
I like both those. Wellness manager, is one of those things.
Well, so real quick, let's talk about names because this is good. So Harlan, right? It's not the most common name. I don't really know anybody named Harlan, although I think I've read like a Harlan.
Before you go deep in the weeds on this, I literally have to leave in 2 minutes.
All right. Well, if you got to jump, you got to jump. You know what I mean?
We don't need you.
All right.
We'll keep it moving. You know what I mean?
You guys can land the plane without me?
We'll try. We'll see. But hey, again, before you jump though, I do also just want to say congratulations to you. I've worked like hand in hand with you on this deal over the last, 18 months.
Yeah, congratulations to you too, man. You played a big role in getting this across the line.
But it was just awesome being part of it. And I think it's like, I
think it was like the first project you got involved with when you came on here.
Yeah. It was one of those things. Well, it was one of the ones that preliminarily we were talking about, and it was like as it started to come into focus, it helped to kind of justify, and I think for both of us, like, hey, there's a lot to do here, like just in the existing business, but the future facing stuff, there's a lot of exciting shit to do as well. And and obviously we've gotten into a whole lot of other stuff in the meantime, but so all good, man. So hey, you go ahead and jump and do your thing. Congratulations again, man. And let's go. MediaOptions keeping it popping. Let's go.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Drew.
Hey, appreciate the support.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right, cool. Now we can actually
now
talk.
we can really say,
I know. Woo, I never thought he was going to leave,
Now we can relax.
By the way, like I did so much of that work, you know what I mean? I'm glad that he actually gave me a little bit of credit, you know what I mean? So,
You're lucky he gave you any credit.
I know, right? Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. No, it's cool. Hey, so let's keep it moving because this was actually the thing I wanted to. Because again, Harlan's one of those names. The appraisal value, and these are Esteban appraisals. We don't necessarily endorse these, but it's data points, and I'm always a proponent of the more access to data, good, bad, ugly. Like at least allows people to make more informed decisions. So a name like this, which is unique. Does the uniqueness help, hurt, right? Because let's say you take a name like Elizabeth or something like, or one that has six, I don't know, another name real that has six, Braden, right? Braden.com, Joshua.com, right? Versus a Harlan.com. Joshua would be worth a lot more, right? Because it's more common of a name, or is it based off of like what it could potentially be used for, right? I mean, what do you think? And if there's more of like a last name, first name, I'm just kind of more curious. You guys have been doing this for a long time, and I find this an interesting topic.
Well, look,
Popularity of the name, it correlates with usage of the name and what it can be used for. So, I mean, like,
hence value.
Yeah. So I would say that you've got kind of like three categories. You've got the top tier, like James, Josh, Noah, like names that are used in Silicon Valley as brands.
Sure.
And then you've got like mid-tier names that might include like popular names, but names like Louise.com or like kind of in that middle category. And then you've got those lower end names
like Ammar.com, like total shit name.
I was just loving the fact that like we're gonna get them to be saying that people's names are mid tier. I'm like, shit, like don't say my name's mid tier, motherfucker. I'm not down with
that. I would say like Harlan fits in between bottom and middle.
So definitely better than Ammar.
I think Ammar's dope, dude. That's like one of my favorite.
Ammar is definitely a mid-tier name. Jonathan, the way that you've got your spell is a mid-tier name, but John is a top-tier name.
The way I spell John, I don't use the H. You know what I mean? Because I think it's a waste of a letter.
Johns, Jon and JOH.
Yeah, JON's a 3-character. Actually, that would probably be like really super valuable.
And for the record, Braden.com is just pigeon shit right there.
It is pigeon shit. It is bottom tier, man. So yeah, I just think that's and it's interesting. And I guess some of it too would be the way that, just even how the name sounds. Certain names are just, I think, can lend themselves to be sort of top, more, higher level brands, right? And I think that's an important part of it too. Length of the name matters, those kinds of things. How many variations of the spelling?
Variations, for sure.
A single syllable, Josh.com is obviously worth much more than Joshua.com.
Jake. Yeah. We like Jake.
Yeah. All right, cool. No, I think that's
do I own Jake? That's fair. So I own Jake, and I received a $350,000 offer on it, which I turned down.
Okay.
Yeah, but really? Jake from State Farm is worth at least $1 million.
Sorry, Jake from State Farm. Today's not the day. 350 is not getting it done.
350 is a great number for that name. Like, I don't know. I feel like names have limited upside. Even like there's just, they will go up over time, just like all premium domains are going to go up over time. But like, I don't know, for $350K, I think you could redeploy that into a lot of I don't want to say a lot, but there's a lot of options of what you could do. There's a lot of options of what you could do with a 350.
I don't think it was a ridiculous, ridiculously low, right? It was decent. It was an opening offer, so I figured there was more there. I think I'm asking like 6 or 650, something like that. What I like about names like that, especially the 4-character single syllables, is that not only do you have like the rich guy that wants his name, right, or girl,
right,
but a name like that can easily be a brand, and you see it all the time, right? There's a lot of brands, right? They're just using like a first name because it's memorable.
No, I agree with you on that. I guess I just, like I said, I don't know, for that name, I think 350 is definitely a reasonable number.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I'm not trying to offend you or rain on your parade on that name. I think it's a good name.
No, it's good. This is good. This is a good conversation. We need to get the back and forth going a little bit. We got to
Right,
pressure
like,
test some of this stuff.
You know what?
So I'll
take
say
it
one
off
more
your- I'll
thing.
take it off your hands for $100,000, Braden. I don't
Right.
think that it's a good name either.
Right.
But no. But what I'll say, for instance, one of the negatives on it, it's both a negative and a positive. I love that it's 4 letters, 1 syllable, but the negative on it is it's kind of a casual sounding name, right? So kind of like what JT was saying, I think you were alluding to before, is kind of how the name sounds. For instance, I was trying to buy Josephine.com for obvious reasons, in case I ever, needed some leverage on her.
Smart.
100%.
I think
Smart move,
that's
dude.
a much longer name, and it's multiple syllables and maybe arguably has multiple spellings. But I think that's more of a brand than Jake. Right?
Or I think you can make an argument. Let's do this. You don't even have to go as far as the Josephine example. And you could say Jake versus Jacob, right? I think you could
I would
say
pick Jacob over Jake.
Jacob has maybe it's also like, Jacob the jeweler and all this kind of stuff. To me, it just sort of stands out as more of like,
Right.
There's more of an elegance to it, which
Right,
could
that's
be
what I
more
was
of a
trying to say,
higher,
yeah.
more of a higher level brand, whereas Jake is very Jake. Like,
Casual.
but I also think
Jake from State Farm.
Jake is insurance tech, fintech, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You don't think
and
State
that's
Farm would
fantastic.
come after you for like, hey, you're doing insurance and you're using Jake?
But I do like I do think it's an interesting thing when you talk about like the rich guy who just wants to have his domain name. And I think that's interesting because I think you'll see that across, and even other domains when you get into some of the blockchain names, like the .eth domains, people that want to have just their first name .eth, their first name .com, and a lot of that stuff, or their last name. We've talked on the show before too, where Two Cows has a lot of those last name domains, and I would love to have tenenbaum.com. It's not that common, but it's locked in over there, with that whole thing, and those are the kinds of things that could really and we appreciate domains, so it's like we know the value of having Drew's got drew.net, and it's like does he, I don't know if he has drew.com actually, but having your first name.com is a flex, right? And it's like, and that's a and there's more people that are wealthy now that appreciate digital assets, and we see like you have all these crypto millionaires and NFT millionaires, and that appreciate the value.
That's how they got wealthy.
Yeah.
Digital assets.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I mean, and they appreciate them, so it's like I think all of us would love to have our first name.com, and that's like there's a certain achievement just in and to that. And anyway, I know Ammar's got to go here in about 5 minutes, so let's so Ammar, talk to us about, Braden, you mentioned a couple names on the list, but you were about to name a few. You said Harlan, you said Eron, you done messed up Eron, and were you gonna say?
I also like General Partners and Wellness Manager.
Yeah, I think both of those. I mean, I'm with you guys. I mean, I selected the names, and I didn't pick any, and none of these are like, hey, I picked. So every once in a while, I'll pick one or two that I think are actually worth talking about because I think that they are overvalued. In this case, I don't think any of those would be in that category. I think these are all great domain names, and I think Wellness Manager I think is cool. I think General Partners is really interesting. It's so generic, but like. It's a great name for a company, just General Partners.
Yeah.
I mean, generalpartners.com. Like you think of that as a VC firm or something. It's like,
that's a sleeper, I think.
I mean, that just sounds like, I think those are the guys that invested. They were early in Apple. You know what I'm saying? It's like General Partners, So yeah. And then, so Ammar, we've got a few minutes with you. And then we'll cut it all off.
I mean, we've all said mostly the same thing. I really like Fast Quote. I think that's a fantastic one. I'll tell you the ones I'll be bidding on: Fast Quote, Brand Labs, Forward, and General Partners. Those are probably the 4 that I would be bidding seriously on.
What about
the list?
Yeah, what about remasters.com?
Like if it was the singular, I'd like it. The plural on that. I mean, I guess it could be he remasters or she remasters, so it could also be a verb. But I view it more like, I guess, what? It could be kind of, you know, remastered either music or art or
Yeah,
like
music is
remix,
where,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's or the
But it could
remat, you know,
no,
it's
but it could
remasters.
also
Like,
be, it could also be art.
yeah.
It can also be art. So I could see it having value in, you know, Web3.
And then the only one I think we didn't talk about already would be iWe or AWE or
Yeah, I mean,
AIWI.com.
Or Coach Finder.
yeah.
Which not either.
Oh yeah,
Or
Coach
Love
Finder.
Science.
Coach Finder, I thought, you know, life coaching, you know, those kinds of things. You know, people that, you know, really, you know, consultants and things like in that, like, you know, how do you?
But
and
there's
maybe
so
that-
many alternatives for that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
so maybe
you
that's
also
one
got-
that's, you know, maybe we didn't mention it for a reason. That's probably one of the ones. And to what it's for what it's worth, it I think when you look at appraisal, right? Like that one appraised at a higher value than general partners, I think is a mistake, right?
Yeah,
And again,
for sure.
the Esteban appraisals are not exact science. It's domaining, it's an art, it's a science. Domains are ultimately worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. All that good stuff. But yeah, I would think that, you know, general partners should have a higher, you know, appraisal compared to some of these other names that, you know. And then I guess, you know, AIWI, you know, 4-character, sort of pronounceable. You know, I think the whole AI thing there is kind of interesting, you know, but probably
Yeah,
not one that I'm
that's
super
true.
excited about. But I do like the AI piece in there. I think that gives it like, you know, it's almost like AIWE.com, like, you know, something like that. It's like, how do you even, anything that you've got to like, you know, sort of say and then spell and then, you know, that kind of stuff when you're talking about a domain name, you know, it starts to devalue it a bit if you can't, you know, if you've got to get, you know, go through a process to explain to people how they actually can figure out what it is, you know? So,
right. I think Harlan is probably going to go for under the radar in a sense. So that might be a good one for it sounds like Braden likes names. So
Why do you
it
keep
might be a
talking
good one
about
for
it?
Braden.
why are you blowing up a spot?
No, that I think that one could go under the radar and relatively, right? But I think I think that one probably has, depending on what it goes for, might be the one with like the best ROI possibly.
Yeah, well, because the name, you know, the name stuff I think is interesting too, because you got first name, last name. I think there's Harlan
Right.
County, maybe in Texas.
And that
or
one, yeah, that
something,
one's
so.
both first name and last name, like you said. And so I could definitely see that
And
one
location,
having
maybe cities, you know, things like
Mhm.
that. I think there's a lot of stuff for those particular, like, and I know there's, you know, there's obviously databases and sites you could go to see, you know, use of names over time too. You know what I mean? Because that's another one where you almost can, you know, you can look to figure out like, you know, are, you know, the trends for names and, you know, are those in the upswing and how many names in demographics and population and all that kind of stuff and how many cities share a name and, you know, so there are those tools and, you know, we talk about those occasionally, but, you know, at some point we should probably put, you know, and I don't know if Mike, if Seiger on with DN Academy has, you know, sort of a directory of some of those things, but, you know, I know we've had him specifically on the show mentioning some of those sites and tools where you can find out information around like, you know, the popularity of words and names and how many towns and things like that. So, which I think are, you know, important metrics and things for people to look at when they're, you know, evaluating domain values.
I think Name Bio has a category for names, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I recall correctly.
All right, cool. Well, all good. Yeah, great list. So just reminding everybody, like get over to NameJet, check them out. Go to Domain Sherpa and pull the sheet if you need the links and some additional info. You know, so I think we're good. You guys have anything else to cover here in the last like 120 seconds? I know, Ammar, you've been dropping some of the blog stuff that you've been doing lately.
Yeah, I've been getting back into the writing, which is really fun. It's another writing course I just started. Like much more short form stuff, which is cool. But it's still taking me hours every day. It's really frustrating. But
yeah, well, the short form stuff that's what people have the attention span for nowadays.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, but it's been fun. So I'm going to keep doing that. I did pick up a name this morning right before the show, which I like. I don't know how much it's worth, but I like it. I got Metaphysical. So it's kind of like a play on metaphysical.
Metaphysical, but metaphysical. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Oh, I don't hate that. I like that. Metaphysical. So
I thought that was interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting play on words. All right, cool. Braden, what about you, man? Anything hot topic? Quick shout out? Anything?
You know, the year's starting out strong. I had this week, literally this week, it's Thursday, and as of yesterday, I had 4 sales close this week.
Wow. So that's great, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. I could tell you what I sold. I can't give you prices on everything, but I sold curable.com on a payment plan.
Cheerable?
Curable.
Oh, curable. Okay. So
Yeah,
an actual word.
it just got paid off this week.
Dope.
Royalties.com,
Ooh, all right.
recognize.io.
Ooh, you better recognize.
And I sold a VC. It was a bin yesterday or day before. Robust.vc for $3,500.
That's awesome, man.
You know, that was a $5 buy plus one renewal. So
Yeah. Oh, that reminds
all
me. I got a
margin there.
.vc domain I got to renew. Yeah, that's all. Well, dude, that's a great roster of domains. Those are fantastic. Royalties, especially. I love that domain. Royalties.com. You know,
That's not mine anymore.
I know. Well, I loved it when you had it, you know. So and
I love it more now.
Yeah, well, yeah. You're like, I love looking at the numbers in my bank account.
Yeah, recognize.
Very cool. All right, and then Josh, what about you, man? What's up? What's happening with Zed Run? They got some new stuff popping off, man. You qualifying for the big whatever the Crystal Rose tournament, the Crystal Springs, Springs race?
Yeah. No, I'm spending a lot of time with Zed Run, and definitely investing a lot of time and energy into that. Probably a bit too much. The domains are doing their job well. Supporting my bad habits.
Love it.
But no, I mean, good start to the year. I sold circular.co, 25 grand. Sold blockchainsyndicate.com for 4,500 maybe.
Wow. All right, cool.
Just sold pickleballevents.com yesterday.
We got to get out and play pickleball, man. I know, you guys play over there on the courts, and I just don't want to get my ass kicked that bad. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so
come on, suck it up.
I've been avoiding that,
So I've sold a bunch. I think I've already sold 65 grand in names this year.
Good for you, dude.
Just
started,
so like pretty good start of the year. Pretty happy with that, and I dropped a bunch on .xyz. Spent like all of that I made is all gone back into .xyz. Literally,
yeah, that's pretty crazy. But hey, look,
a bit of a gamble, but
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, look, here's the thing. We spend a lot of time in the crypto NFT space. We've definitely seen an adoption. It was IOs, and now, big move into XYZ, sound.xyz, and a handful of others. There's been a lot of big sales. We've definitely seen that picking up speed. They've done a good job too with some of like the Ethereum integration stuff that they've done. They were definitely forward thinking around that. Huge shout out to Daniel and it's and Ambrose. I mean, it's like, look, those guys are all good, man. I think they've been putting in the work, and it's cool to see that happening.
I just think SLDs are so much more valuable right now than ever before. I mean, the top SLDs, and like these XYZ names, these are names like Wise, Boom, like the absolute best of the best SLDs. And I just feel like if you can get those SLDs in, there's probably 4 or 5 extensions now that if you can have those SLDs, you're gonna have opportunities to sell those names for a lot of money. You just are, because there are so many companies that are coming up with, that want a strong brand. And you just get lots of swings with these. I mean, I sell .co.io, .ai, .vc, all of those ones at a much higher sell-through rate than .com, like much higher, because they're very, very targeted SLDs. And one of the biggest branding trends right now is short one-word domain names. Short one-word names. As 10 years ago, it wasn't quite like that. It was much more common to add capital or partners or those.
Right. So you're talking generally speaking about branding, not just about the domains themselves, but to call yourself something like Boom versus calling yourself something like Boom Industries or something. You know what I mean?
That's why inherently, that's why all of these new TLDs are coming up and becoming more and more valuable, because it's more about not diluting the brand now. I know we think about things slightly differently, but branding agencies and companies now, they just think about how can we make sure that we don't dilute the brand in any way, shape, or form. We don't want to be known as, you know, Boom Partners or Boom Capital. We just want to be Boom. That's it. That's why, you know, xyz.io.co are continuing to do well, and they will continue to do well.
Yeah. And I think, you know, and also too, for those, I mean, the genericism of the extension, right? I mean, it's like, you know, we're not talking about boom.consulting, right? You're talking about .io, .xyz, .co,
Exactly.
you know, the ones that and, you know, some of them are CCTLDs, but, you know, the fact and
that's the issue with these new GTLDs. And that's what has always been my issue. I've just gained more clarity now, is that the problem is that it's descriptive, and that's not what people want. They don't want to be boxed in. They don't want to be boxed into consulting or whatever it is. They specifically choose that type of word so that they're not boxed in and they don't have to go elsewhere.
Yeah. All right.
Like an empty vessel.
An empty vessel. And with that, yep. All right. And I said it one more time. So drink and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time on this special day, special episode. And I want to say thank you to the audience. As I say at every show, without you, there's no us. Holler at us. You want to find us. We're not hard to find. Twitter, you know, LinkedIn, whatever. Hit us up on the site, on the blog. Comments, good, bad, ugly. Let us know what's up. Thank you to everybody who supported today's release, opening, whatever you want to call it, sale. And a lot more to come there. And otherwise, we will catch everybody next time here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Peace out, everybody. Thank y'all.
See you guys.
Bye.